Imagine waking up to find the rules for feeding your family have shifted overnight. Starting September 1st, 2025, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, commonly known as food stamps, is undergoing a massive overhaul, impacting 2.4 million Americans. Why? New work requirements and a staggering $92 billion budget cut are reshaping who qualifies and how. These changes hit hardest for four groups: seniors on fixed incomes, people with disabilities, veterans, and families with children. For the first time, parents of dependents must work to keep benefits. The age cap for work mandates jumps from 54 to 65, pulling thousands of older adults into the mix. Tighter eligibility, complex paperwork, and mandatory proof of work or volunteering add new hurdles. States face pressure too. If their error rates are high, they'll cover 5 to 15% of costs, potentially slashing benefits further to balance budgets. But it's not just numbers. Picture a senior scraping by, now forced to navigate work requirements or lose grocery money. Or a parent juggling kids and a job, facing new demands to prove it. The stakes are real and the clock is ticking. So, what can you do? Work or volunteer, 20 hours a week and report it. Apply for exemptions if you're older or disabled. Don't assume they're automatic. Stay on top of mail and deadlines. Reach out to food banks or community groups for help. Seniors, document health or utility costs to boost benefits. Explore programs like Meals on Wheels or farmers markets double bucks to stretch dollars. With SNAP's landscape shifting, who will fill the gap for millions? The answer starts with understanding these changes right now.
Some huge changes are coming to the nation's food assistance program. You know, SNAP, or what many people just call food stamps. This is going to affect millions of Americans, so today we're going to break down exactly what's new, why it's happening, and what you really need to know based on the latest reports. So let's just start with the sheer scale of all this.
To really get a sense of the impact, let's just start with the number, 2.4 million. That's how many people could be affected by these new rules.
And a report from CNN kind of gives us the context for that number. The main reason for this big shakeup? It's all about broadening the work requirements for the program. So who exactly makes up that 2.4 million? Let's take a closer look at the folks who are going to be most impacted by these new regulations. It looks like four key groups are really expected to be the hardest hit. We're talking about seniors who are living on fixed incomes, people with disabilities, our veterans, and even some families with children who are now going to face some brand new hurdles. And listen, this isn't some far-off possibility. These new rules are set to kick in on September 1st, 2025. That's why it is so important to understand what's happening right now. All right, so now that we have a better idea of who is affected, let's dig into the why. Why is all this happening? It really boils down to two main things: new work requirements and some pretty major shifts in the budget. So here it is. This is probably the single biggest change. Before, the work requirements for able-bodied adults without any dependents, well, that applied to people between 18 and 54. Now, that age range is being stretched all the way up to 65. I mean, that change alone pulls thousands more people, especially older adults, into these work mandates. But it's not just about the age range. Eligibility in general is getting tighter, the paperwork is getting more complex, and people will now have to routinely send in proof that they're working or volunteering or in some kind of training program. And this is a big one. In a really historic shift, parents of dependent children are now, for the very first time, required to work to get their benefits. The money side of this is just staggering. We're looking at a projected spending cut of $92 billion from the SNAP program. A cut this massive is really what's driving all these big changes to who qualifies and for how much. But, you know, these cuts don't just hit individuals. They also put a ton of pressure on state governments. So, how does this all ripple out to the states? Well, for the first time, states that have high error rates when they're handing out these benefits, they might have to start paying for part of the bill themselves. We're We're talking between 5 and 15% of the cost. The big concern here is that states, maybe unable to cover these new costs, could be forced to make their rules even stricter, cutting even more people from the program just to balance their budgets.
Okay, so we've covered the what and the why. And I know that can feel a little heavy. So let's switch gears to the most practical question of all. What can you actually do to get through this new system and keep your benefits?
There are 4 really clear steps you can take. First, you can meet the requirements straight on by working or volunteering at least 20 hours a week. And this is key, you have to report it. Second, if you're an older adult or have a disability, make sure you apply for an exemption. Don't just assume it's automatic. Third, you've got to be on top of your mail. Watch for letters and send back any documents they ask for right away. And finally, you don't have to do this alone. Reach out and get help from local food banks and other community groups.
I want to circle back and talk a little bit more about seniors, because they're one of the groups that's most affected by all this. Beyond just the new work rules, there are some very specific details they really need to know about.
Okay, this is a really important tip that could make a huge difference. A lot of seniors might be missing out on getting higher benefit amounts. If you can provide documents for out-of-pocket health costs and things like utility bills, you can get deductions that might actually increase your monthly SNAP money. It's an extra step for sure, but it could be a really vital one.
So, while figuring out the new SNAP rules is absolutely essential, it's also good to know what other resources are out there. And thankfully, there are several other programs that are designed to help with food insecurity.
There's a whole support network available, actually. I won't go through every single one, but a few to highlight are some Medicare Advantage plans that now offer food allowances, the Commodity Supplemental Food Program, which gives you a monthly box of groceries, and of course the programs we know like Meals on Wheels and emergency food banks.
And you have got to hear about this, because it's an amazing way to stretch your benefits even further. It's called the Double Bucks Program, and you can find it at a lot of farmers markets. It lets you double the value of your SNAP benefits when you buy fresh produce. So basically, $20 on your EBT card can get you $40 worth of food. It's a real game changer.
So, all of this brings us to our final big question. With these huge changes to a program that's been around for so long, it brings up a much larger issue. As the entire landscape of food assistance shifts, who or what is going to step in to fill the gap for the millions of people affected? It's a really critical question to think about as these new rules start to roll out.